One of the other things we're going to keep a big eye out on this weekend is going to be the hurling, and particularly Wexford hurling, which was of interest to us, and it was for that reason we decided we'd love to speak with Liam Griffin on the show this morning, and happily Liam has taken our call. Good morning to you, Liam.
Morning, gents. How are you?
Very good. Thanks a million for...
I don't agree with you that skiing and all of that stuff is brilliant. You mustn't have done it. You mustn't have done it yourself.
I've been a couple of times actually, and I do love it. But as a spectator, to be fair, I haven't had the time to look at it too much over the last week. Are you watching much of it?
Oh yeah, sure. I ski myself, so it's brilliant. You know, no, brilliant stuff. Really good.
That cross country snowboarding. Would you give it a lash?
I've given it a lash on the skiing, but not on the boarding. A bit past it for the boarding. But I tell you, there's a message in that for all of us. The way those sports have evolved over the last number of years and suddenly become mainstream, and I think there's a message for that for us in the GAA how to keep it going forward.
Yeah, well, we might get to some of those maybe the latter part of the conversation in relation to Congress coming up. So look, at Wexford are obviously a very interesting story, Liam. They're 2 from 2 in Division 1A. It was a similar start in 1B, obviously last year. Tougher in 1A, but the vital signs are good there. Something brewing around the county?
Yeah, no, look, this has been I mean, Davy's done a tremendous job, and I'm absolutely delighted that Davy's there. He's box office. He's good for Wexford. He's exactly what we need at the moment, in my view. We mustn't forget that team. A lot of those guys won 3 in a row in Leinster under 21, and also there's been a lot of work done with those since they were right back to Tony Forrestall, which is under 14. Tom Dempsey, Billy Byrne, Liam Dunn, a lot of fellas have put a lot of effort into there. George O'Connor, David Guiney, and then Davy's come along and he's picked up and taken it on to the next level, to be fair, and he's done a fantastic job. And this is exactly what we need to be where we are now in Division 1A, because we got a lot of emerging young talent, hopefully, and this is where they need to be.
Yeah, talk to us, just to take on that point a little bit more. I know reading Michael Ryan in the papers during the week ahead of the Tipperary game at the weekend saying the Davy factor is real, and you're obviously very much on that sort of line as well. He's only lost 2 games in the league and championship in his time there, and both of those were against last year's All-Ireland finalists. So he's obviously doing something. What is it?
Well, Davy is bringing passion to it. I mean, we get kind of smart alecky about guys like Davy on occasions. I just like the way he wears his heart on his sleeve. He says he's totally non-kosher, and he says a lot of stuff that grates on the establishment and grates on everybody, grates on myself on occasions. But you can't deny that he has the knack of dealing with young guys and getting more out of them. And he's getting that West of Ireland passion back into a Wexford team. And that's not to say Wexford people lack passion, but they seem to be slow to develop it on occasions. And I think Davy's done that. And he brings a wealth of experience. He's won All-Ireland medals. He's won them on the field of play. He's been into theatre. He knows what it's all about. So he's bringing all of that together. And I think also he's learned a lot on the way. And I think we're getting the benefit of it.
I was just looking at some of the numbers, the playing staff particularly. 9 players who were involved who started the Waterford loss in 2016 were involved in the win over Cork a couple of weeks ago. It's not a massive turnaround in personnel. It's probably a pretty regular kind of a number, I would think. What are the most significant differences on the pitch, Liam, that you're seeing between now and, let's say, that game 18 months ago?
Well, the difference is, I think that Davy doesn't have the strength and depth that he would have in Kilkenny, that he would have even in Dublin, for example, or in Tipperary, or Cork, because even though we've won the 21s, we haven't been very successful beneath that. So therefore, he doesn't have a big, strong panel, to be honest. And he's trying to find new talent. But he's brought on some of the boys that we had that I felt would struggle to make it really well at the top of inter-county senior hurling. And they've come on a ton in the last period of time. So, like, he's bringing on the players that he has, and he's bringing in new players. Like, young Rec at cornerback is playing a stormer at the moment there. Paddy Foley has come in, big guy, 6'3", 6'4", probably. He's come in at centre back. That's his best position. Matthew O'Hanlon, who is an experienced player, has developed into a good main leader on the team. Jack Guiney hasn't emerged as well as we'd like him, but overall, if you look across it, he's brought something special to each individual section of the team as he tries to cultivate talent, which is not that plentiful on the ground.
A couple of weeks ago, Davy was saying that some of the players were citing the bookmakers' odds and how they were favourites to go back down to 1B. There's something about Davy, isn't there, Liam, that he just enjoys being the underdog and creating this almost siege mentality that, everybody's writing us off and we're going to prove them all wrong.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. The day Davy's not under siege, he won't be performing, to be honest. Davy has to have something to aim at all the time. That's part of his makeup. That's part of his personality. And psychologically, that's a very good thing that he sees that. It's a good thing from a sports perspective, and it's a good thing from our perspective that he sees it like that, because, if you don't bring the driven passion into the game of hurling, particularly in an emerging team, I don't think you've got any chance. And I think that's what he's brought. If you look at some of the other teams that have fallen off the wayside, like Davy would be very good for any of those teams. And I really just think that that's what's needed right now for us at the moment. Will it last? No, it won't. We're going to have to try and have a succession plan in Wexford, and I'm not so sure how the succession plan is working out, but we need a succession plan so that in the event when Davy does eventually leave, that we can carry on from there. And hopefully we can. There's some good signs at the moment at underage.
The one thing about last year and this year with Davy was that the league games, the quicker they came, the better Wexford got, because it kind of ties in with that mentality we were just talking about, that momentum is something that Wexford can take under Davy and it will affect them in a better way than any other county out there. So that would bode very well for the summer, given the new structures out there, wouldn't it, Liam?
It will, but now I think panels are going to be everything from here on in. You're going to have a strong panel, and your management skills are going to be into how you manage the panel, how you keep that panel going with all the continuous games. Now, what I would say, however, is that the great thing for Wexford is we had 8,000 people at the Cork game. We had a massive game in Wexford Park with Kilkenny last year. Like, if you look at the GAA itself, one of the good things that's happening out of the championship is bringing games to the provinces into the towns. Like, Wexford needs that to grow the game. We're going to have 3 major games. If we can stay in Division 1A for next year, we've only 2 home games in Division 1A this year. But if we can stay in Division 1A, we'll have 3 home games next year. Now, just look at the effect that has in terms of the development and growth and popularity of the game. Bringing that to Wexford Town. This is absolutely essential for us to keep going forward. And that's the big prize for us, to keep up there, to keep in there. And the matches coming together, it will be a challenge in relation to keeping the panel and trying to keep yourself as injury-free as possible. And it should be a level playing pitch for everybody else as well, which is not normally the case in GAA, by the way.
And that succession plan, Liam, and you'll know this probably better than anybody in the country, has got to be more than obviously just games. Is there much going on at the minute in terms of trying to bring that talent through?
There's a big attempts now. In fairness, we have a new county chairman and vice chairman, and I have to give them credit for the fact that they've concentrated where we need to concentrate, and that's in national school from there on in. Look, they'll be playing senior hurling. There's lads playing senior hurling now that were in national school. They're playing with some of the guys that are there, and they're only in their late 20s. So, we need to develop the game from the bottom. But this has been preached in Wexford for years. But we fall between 2 stools because we are trying to be, unlike most counties in the country, we are trying to be a dual county. And I support that. I think it can be done. But it needs a management system from the top that promotes and and makes that possible. And I think with that work at the bottom, with Davy at the top and a succession plan, but what we need is scenario planning. Where are we going to be 5 years from now? And we need to be thinking about that right now. And where are we going to be 10 years from now? Because if we don't think like that now, we'll be very good on one part of the bar and very low on the other. But at the moment, the signs are actually good in Wexford. And I'm very, very happy about that. And we're embracing hurling as what the people want in Wexford. Whether people like to believe that or not, hurling is box office in Wexford. We had 60,000 people in Croke Park last year at the Leinster final. And we have the people have a great appetite for hurling. But they're slow to anger and they're slow to get excited over it. And hopefully now that this fire that Davy has lit will help us to go forward.
Yeah, some of the counties who would be sort of, I guess, maybe anti the dual-purpose counties, if I could put it that way, would maybe suggest that you can do that, but maybe at the sacrifice of an All-Ireland. Is that your feeling, or do you think that...
No, I don't believe that. I believe that Wexford could play 2 Leinster finals on the one day if the game was developed properly within the county, and we had a structure to accommodate that. But the overarching GAA system at the top does not promote that. It does not promote the possibility of being able to be good at both. Now, I don't believe that a player can play senior inter-county hurling and football at the same time. I don't believe it's doable. It'll never be doable anymore. And that notion has to be put to one side. So you need a plan for both if you're going to do both. But that needs to work into a better plan, a national plan that supports that kind of a system. Look, that's a long way down the line. So in the meantime, we need to get on with just developing the game of hurling and getting it up there. While at the same time, we still should obviously keep our game of football going, because every club in Wexford, bar 2, plays both hurling and football.
So when the development of hurling is happening in Wexford and people are going into national schools, is it highly skill-based? Is there a brand of hurling that's being encouraged amongst the young people in Wexford?
I think the brand of hurling is to encourage the Wexford now at the moment, and we have a good guy in charge of that now, Willie Cleary. He was involved with minor hurling teams, and he's a very, very good young guy. And we need young guys coaching in Wexford, and that's an area where we're a bit weak on. We need to get more young guys coaching. But yes, I think that the most important thing is skill. The most important thing in hurling is absolute skill at that early age. At the development stage, and before they reach puberty, and before they get to national school, I think they need to develop the skills of hurling. It's still too late. Joey Carton, who's the coaching officer for Munster, in a study wrote that when you got to secondary school, if you don't have the skills perfected, by the time you get there, it's already too late. And I agree with that because I know it from my own time. So I think that skill, and more skill is the answer at that level with youth. And if we can do that, we can get up to the standards of what we need to be, and that's with the best and leaders in the field.
I think we can all get behind that. Do you think maybe it's a more superficial level? Do you think, is there an All-Ireland in this group?
I think there could be an All-Ireland in this group, but I think it's I wouldn't put that pressure on him. I think they need to just do exactly what Davy has him doing, playing match to match and see where that takes us. Now, don't forget, we're heading on to Tipperary on Saturday night. That's a big ask for Wexford. And when we go to Tipperary on Saturday night, like if we could get 2 more points out of that, I think we're safe in Division 1A. So this is a big game for us if we could win it. But we've got Clare then, and then we've got Kilkenny. Now, we're playing Kilkenny in Nolan Park. And you know what? They'll be on a 50-day fast to beat us. And not that the public will be. It would be inconceivable that we could go and beat them again in Nolan Park, as they see it. Now, I think that's going to be a hell of a game. And I'd love to do them on that day in Nolan Park, to be quite honest with you. It'd be great satisfaction. But that's not the point. We've got to try and stay there. But there's 6 more points to play for, and they're going to be difficult to get. But if we get 2 more, I think we'll be safe. And I think that's the big one I'd like to see this year. Stay in Division 1A, keep developing the team. And I think at this time next year, I'll answer the question whether there's an All-Ireland in this or not then.
The fire is easily lit when you're playing Kilkenny. There was 2 other quick things, Liam, that I just wanted to touch on. You're obviously very heavily involved with the Club Players Association, and I know Congress is upcoming, and a change particularly in the Director General upcoming as well. And I just wanted to ask you on that one. Like it seemed like you'd built up a strong working relationship with Pádraig Duffy. Whatever about the results of it, is it a speed bump on the CPA path almost that there's a new Director General incoming there, or is it going to be useful for you guys now to have a clean slate?
Well, from my perspective, I respect Pádraig Duffy. I think that what we got mostly was tokenism, to be quite fair. And that's not to be disingenuous. I think it was. We weren't recognised at Congress, so therefore it was very easy to do it that way. But without going over that, and I don't want to start getting into side issues, I think the GAA needs a complete relook at itself from top to bottom, in fact. And that's not to be preachy. I know from my experience. I think that the whole games playing situation is in a complete and utter shambles. It needs to be sorted out. We offered as a group to come in, but we didn't offer to do the usual GAA thing where we got up and whinged forever. We put together hundreds of man hours, and I'd encourage people to go and look at Plan Green on the CPA website and see if that's not a better system than what's there at the moment. But what I welcome is the new president, if that new president is open to sitting down. And what I feel, when we have to offer to go in and offer to sit down and talk with them and say we are prepared to put the work in and we want to sit down with like-minded people, our position has not changed. We want to sit down in a progressive manner, put down workable plans, not just coming in whinging with and say that's how it works. So we put in a lot of man hours into doing that. And I would think that a progressive president would be delighted to sit down and should be delighted to sit down to look at the system and look at the playing system and put some order on the system and ask everybody for their contribution. If he doesn't like it, he doesn't have to accept it. But I think we need a new start, and I think that new start is, I would be very hopeful a new start will work. Because you know what? If it doesn't, we're going to be really in the quagmire for a long time more to come with fixtures.
I wonder just finally, interesting to see Congress obviously next weekend, that you've got one of the motions down for voter accountability. The rationale behind that, Liam, is that you, I guess, hope that better decisions are reached?
Yeah, look, we need to sit down and put a when I said about scenario planning for Wexford, I'm saying the exact same for the GAA, for the organisation as itself. Where are we going to be 4 or 5 years from now? Can this continue? Look at the discontent that's out there. We have a 95% the dissatisfaction rate from the club players. That cannot continue. And the president must know that. The new president must realise and grasp that and do it. And so from my perspective, I really just believe that the structural systems that are there have to be taken down and looked at. And I just think that a new president should and will do that, hopefully.
Liam, what's your views on the club-only month for April at the moment? Because from the outside looking in, it seems that's just further compressed the numerous competitions that we have this time of year. And this weekend is a great example because you've got National League going on, you've got Sigerson going on, you've got club fixtures going on. And it seems that everything is piled up. And if you want to play more than one competition, particularly if you're a college-going footballer, then you're in a bit of trouble.
Yeah, well, this just highlights on the what we have, what I've just said. There's no point me going over it again. The whole fixtures needs to be stopped and start all over again and relook at the whole lot. But in Wexford, two years ago, a club that was beaten in the senior hurling championship had no fixture at championship level for 11 months. And we're expected to bring 60,000 people to Croke Park. That is not sustainable. And I mean, that has got to be understood. It's not sustainable. So we actually looked at it, and we would much prefer an inter-county season followed by a club season. But that doesn't work, because when you finish in the championship in the previous year, if you don't give some club time in the earlier part of the year, what are guys supposed to train for? And also, if you don't give some certainty, you two guys are young men sitting there. You can't tell me, and if you were married and sitting at home with a wife and two kids, and someone says to you, "When are we playing?" Well, the convoluted system for you to get into action means inter-county has to be played first, and then you get your fixtures. So we look for a period in the early part of the year which could be exclusive to clubs. If Joe Schmidt can do it with an Irish rugby team, if they can play soccer from the southern tip of Chile to the northern to the Arctic Circle, and everyone knows when the game is on, why can't we do it in here? If they can have 32 teams in the NFL and divided on a conference of 8 groups of 4, which is what really works for them, why can't we copy or imitate other systems? It's working elsewhere. Why can't it work for us? And the club player is entitled to get games. And if we don't keep them active, we lower our own standards. At elite level, we lower our own standards because the quality is not good enough at club level. And there's a 70% dropout at inter-county football, at football generally, from the age of 20 to 26. There's a 60% dropout in hurling. Now, these are absolutely crisis points, and they need to be addressed and looked at. And being involved and caught up in a rule book and caught up in an evolving system of fixtures that make absolutely no sense is not good business, and it needs proper management.
I don't know if there's we don't have a huge amount of time, and I know you're in a rush to get away, but if there's a quick fix solution to that, like that fall-off rate particularly, I know the sort of five-a-side football example is used at times, but is there a quick fix on that one finally?
No, there's not a quick fix, but there's the quick fix finally is that we need to address the issues. There's a multiplicity of anomalies in our association. Nothing was done out of evil intent. We have evolved to a situation whereby we need to sit back and take stock and relook at everything again. And if we don't have that, we can't manage our way out of it. Management must manage. I'm doing it all my life. I've had to face it in all aspects of my life since I was a young man at management. And I think I have a fair grasp of what management means. And I just think that we need to relook at our management structures in total. The rule book is great, but the rule book, if it's an inhibiting factor or if it's a blockage, that's not a good idea.
You've been great with your time. Liam Griffin, thanks a million for joining us.
Thank you, lads.
Thanks a lot. Liam Griffin there on the line from Wexford this morning. Noel Call in touch say you could listen to Liam Griffin all day. He'd be a great president of the GAA. It's certainly a good way to start your Friday morning with that kind of passion. Whether you agree with it or not, that kind of passion is always good. And the highlight for me on that entire piece was that he said he essentially put us in the same age bracket, which I can wholly get behind.
Hey, I wouldn't mind after.
I don't know if that was he saying you look a bit older. Or
well, I'll take that after the week that's been after the whole Tyke Furlong nephew situation that was earlier this week. So I'll take that, to be honest. It's good as well that he's into the Winter Olympics, and if you had to pick a cohort of people to tear the GAA structures to pieces and build it all up together, he would certainly be in that cohort of people he'd want involved. My only issue with all of this is, when have we ever seen the GAA willing to go to that level of radical overhaul? That's what it needs, but it's not going to get it.
Because the stuff he's saying makes absolute sense. Like that, even just take that point on its own. That point about the accessibility of the games and the fall-off rate is phenomenal. Like, you would think that should be an absolute and utter priority for the people who are running our games in terms of trying to keep those people engaged. And it isn't that they haven't made any efforts, because they have, but they're obviously not working.
Yeah, it's right. Like, it's also worth pointing out as well there, just to reiterate what Liam said about the month for clubs in April, that's not exactly, that wasn't the ideal situation with the CPA. That was like a compromise that they realise the problems that this causes in terms of like compressing things into other sections of the calendar, but it's the first step maybe to the right direction.
Of many other steps, yeah.
Exactly.
It's not going to be the silver bullet.